introduce a little bit of what we will talk about in this session. So you see that the name is engaging travelers to embrace more sustainable behavior, and we will actually delve into the crucial question of how to effectively encourage travelers to embrace more sustainable choices, and that will come from new findings from a collaborative study that was conducted by the University of Surrey, together with supported by from Booking.com and Accor. And that study explores the motivations and barriers faced by guests worldwide when we speak about sustainable behavior, specifically with hotels. Let me introduce our main speaker, and Emma Padillo, who is a key account manager, partner services at Booking.com. Emma is passionate and driven tourism professional with over 9 years of experience in international account management across the tourism industry in Australia. In her current role as a regional account manager at Booking.com, Emma leads a partnership relationship focusing on long-term growth and market expansion across Oceania. And also, as I came to learn, she's also an avid supporter of the concept of sustainability. So Emma, let's hear from you.
Yes. Okay, you can hear me nice and loud and clear. Well, welcome everyone, or actually I should probably say Bula. It's the first time I've been in Fiji this week, and I probably should admit that, coming from New Zealand. But here we are, I'm having a wonderful week. Friendly faces, it's been really nice to come here and obviously be within Fiji and meet some amazing people. First time I've also been at a conference and I don't have to wear a blazer, an absolute plus, so I'm sure I'm not the only one here in the room with that. But yeah, thank you so much for the introduction, Roy. I am a key account manager. I'm based in New Zealand, but I also look after New Zealand, Australia, and the Pacific Islands, and really fostering some of those relationships with our global chains and a lot of our other accounts and accommodation partners, I guess, across the region. Why am I here? Like all of you, I am here for the right reasons. I'm here because we know how important sustainability is, but we do know that we need to go a little bit further, and I would say that we are at a critical point, and it's really important, and understanding the influence that we have got through the accommodation sector is really powerful. So we're going to dive into a little bit of research that we have done. The main thing we're going to be looking at today is engaging travellers to embrace more sustainable behaviours. And I want to allude back to one of my first experiences when I started with Booking.com nearly 10 years ago. I was an account manager. I was managing the Queenstown market in New Zealand, and if you're familiar with that market, beautiful place, lots of scenery, lots of mountains, ski resorts, lots of conservation efforts, beautiful market to manage. I thought I was very lucky. I never really thought about sustainability though. Like, I'd grown up doing the right thing. I had grown up knowing how to recycle, how to respect the earth, but it really wasn't part of my every single day, or I wasn't consciously thinking about some of the things that I could do or how to change my own behaviour. My very first market visit, nearly 10 years ago, I remember walking into a particular accommodation, and my job then was just to have meetings with a lot of our accommodation partners, understand how their business works, and then how could they optimise and sell more rooms through the Booking.com platform. So lots of things obviously sort of comes through under that umbrella, but from the moment I arrived, my mind was blown. As soon as I met the person at reception, you could tell instantly how engaged they were with me. They took me through to meet the GM. The GM was talking all about the different things that makes their property special. So some of those things was not using a key card. They had a leather, it was like a leather key ring with an actual key, so normal keys. They didn't have TVs in their room. I couldn't understand why they wouldn't have a TV in their room. Their answer to that was because they had to upgrade these all the time, and they're thinking about the landfill. I never thought about this. It was a great thing. But they had projectors that people could use, they could stream their Netflix, and this was going back 10 years ago. We came back for dinner, the chef came over, he also introduced himself and told me everything we had on our plate, where it was locally produced from, and just really, we felt so embedded and we could understand exactly what this accommodation was trying to do. Like, I was sold. I was ready to give up my day job and work for this particular hotel. I was a sustainability advocate from the moment I arrived. That is why I'm standing here today, because like all of you, we are passionate about sustainability, we are passionate about doing the right thing, and the level of influence and that experience is really why I'm here today, and how I can communicate that with our accommodation partners and really help them engage the guests that come and stay at their hotels. Okay, so if I look back at all of the accommodations that I have actually stayed at over nearly the last 10 years, really how progressively the accommodation partners have increased and they've made so much progress in terms of being more operationally sufficient towards sustainability. So some of them are going through third-party certifications, some of them are still in the research phase. You can't really find a lot of hotels now that still do single-use plastic shampoos and conditioners. So small steps up to big, huge steps where they are going through the certification progress. It has been so impressive to see how our accommodation partners have really gone through this progress and the thoughtful consideration they put in behind them. However, a recent partner survey that we did found that 44% of our accommodation partners felt that having a third-party certification alone wouldn't influence guest behaviour when they stayed at their property. So as we all know, it's two-sided, right? You've got hotels that are changing all of their efficiencies, looking at their businesses, they're reprioritising things to really get engaged and be more sustainable. But a lot of that doesn't really matter if the guest is leaving the key card and then the lights on all day, or potentially they've invested in double glazed windows and they leave the windows open and therefore they have to use the heating at night. I don't know anyone that has a towel replaced at home every single day. So it really needs to be an even playing field on both the accommodation and the guest side as well. 62% of our travellers who we surveyed, they say that they feel their best selves when they travel more sustainably. And better yet, 67% of our guests, they also say that they feel inspired when they witness sustainable behaviour and they feel influenced in their everyday life. That was me. That was me nearly 10 years ago, and that's the reason why I'm here today. And I think this is really the big opportunity that we have. We have such an amazing opportunity where we've got guests coming in to stay at hotels, learning different things, learning new habits, and then they obviously take that on into the everyday life. So we were really proud to work and partner with Accor this year. Accor, they are a leading travel provider, and they're also really heavily invested in sustainability efforts as well. And in addition, as Roi mentioned earlier, on the academic side, we also partnered with the University of Surrey. And what we wanted to do, we really wanted to better understand what really does influence travel behaviour when they're on holiday. So this is the cool part, this is what we did. We did a range of interviews with a range of different guests. So these people were all lots of different genres, from different age groups, different ethnicities, different countries. Some of them might have had a positive attitude or understood sustainability. Some of them not so much, probably didn't really understand it or maybe had more of a negative sort of connotation with the word. And then the fun part is we actually looked at some of the signage that Accor were using within their hotels, and we created different signage as well for a comparison. And then the University of Surrey, with those participants, did the really cool part of doing some digital testing. So what does that mean? It meant that we were looking at the original signs from Accor, and we were using eye tracking. Don't ask me all of the details of these because I'm not the expert, but I think that it's very, very cool. So we basically looked at the signs and we did some eye tracking to understand what words they were really focused on. We also did some galvanic skin response. So how were they responding to the words that they were reading? So how was their pulse feeling? Were they a little bit nervous or flustered, or potentially were they sweating a little bit, or how was their heart rate really responding to those messages? And then we also coincided that with some facial expression analysis as well. And so by doing the A/B testing on the original messaging or some alternative messaging gave us a bit of an idea on what guests respond to best. Now, as I go through a lot of these results, what I would like you to think about is what really resonates with you. We've all travelled, we've all stayed in hotels. What resonates with you when you go travelling? Or what do you think you might be influenced by when you see some of the signs? Okay, so the first one. This way. Plan your plate with pride. So this is the first message. And on the left here, we've got another message that says more than words. Same message, different words. The digital testing, what it showed us is what satisfaction, pride, and hope were the top 3 emotions that planned your plate with pride message. So this wasn't actually the original message. This was the original message here, but this had a really positive connotation and guests were a lot more engaged when they read this one. 46% of the participants also felt that this message here, more than words, really increased a lot of their skepticism towards the hotel's overall message. So it was their sustainability efforts, eco-green, it sort of lays in with some of those really quite wide buzzwords, I guess you could say. So what we really recommend with this particular one is be transparent. This is what guests want, right? Highlight your sustainability practices, including for a lot of the less sustainable aspects, and show guests how they can easily contribute. All right, sustainability can also be mistaken for restrictive. We all really expect the best when we go on holiday, and that away from home feeling. We like the long showers, we like all you can eat breakfast, we like fresh, crisp linen sheets, all of the nice fun things you expect from a luxurious holiday. Unsurprisingly, comfort, which is in the middle one here, this word scored the highest level of satisfaction, which was 145% more than the original message. So what does that tell us? It tells us that we should really learn how to balance our different appeals to both pleasure and comfort. Being sustainable doesn't mean being restrictive. So how do we sell that message? Guests really don't want to feel like they have to give something up in order to be on holiday or to feel like they're doing the right thing. Sustainability, sometimes we learned, can also be mistaken for restrictive or cost-cutting. So guests can be a little bit suspicious when we're asking them, as an example, to fill up a reusable water bottle, as an example, opposed to having them replaced every single day. It can sometimes come across as being quite cost-cutting. So really trying to appeal to both that pleasure and also comfort can be a really effective way to tie in some of that messaging. This one resonated with me the most, and I'm sure every single person in this room today will probably feel the same. But guests want to be empowered. We all want to feel empowered. We don't want to be constrained. We don't want to be dictated to. We all react very negatively to assertive or demanding messages, right? So, within the 2 different boxes here, hope, satisfaction, and pride were drawn on this one here, with every drop counts. And when I hear that, I go, oh, yeah, cool, good point. I'll tighten the tap, thank you for the reminder. If I read a message and it was turned down the volume, okay, like I'm not going to react the same way. It's got a much more negative connotation towards it. The emotions with this one was anger, it was fear, and also contempt. So pretty harsh words when they're hearing quite a dictatorial type of comment. Yes, they do react negatively to what they see as an assertive or demanding message, and out of all of the messages that we looked at with that testing, this was actually the one that was viewed most negatively. And this one I also really like, which is help guests act as responsibly as they would at home. So the word home, which is just up here, this actually made the accommodation come across as being twice as responsible as the original message, which was here, get in sync with the earth. So it really sort of made them feel that they had a certain level of responsibility when they were at the hotel. Help guests feel like they are at home, if they feel confident or if they feel comfortable when they are at an accommodation, if they know that they can go out and use the bus route, or they know a lot of the walks because they've spoken to the person at reception, for an example, they're really sort of feeling like they've been embedded within their whole hotel experience. They understand the community. They're also most likely to come back. The other point I'd like to make with this one here, and I guess there'll be a lot of people within this room that can also resonate with this, but as a corporate traveller, I'm probably away once every 2 to 3 weeks within a hotel room. I don't go out every single night for dinners. Quite often I will have to work late, which means I will have dinner brought to my room, or maybe I've brought it in from outside because I'll be catching up on emails and doing day-to-day things. And so if I don't have the opportunity to do the recycling like I usually would, or potentially I have had a day where I have had room service, or not room service, room service where they've come in and tidied my room and my towel has been hung up, yet they've actually taken it and replaced it. Like, these are the types of things we don't really do at home. I don't know anybody that has washed their towel every single day. So really just making guests feel as responsible as what they would at home gives them that sense of empowerment. All right, so how do we put a lot of these strategies into action? I'm going to circle back to the Queenstown story I used at the start, This is the one that really caught my attention from the moment I arrived. So helping staff be more sustainable too. So it's not just about a lot of the messages that are displayed around the hotel. What is the vibe? How are the hotel staff interacting with guests? Are we bringing them along on the journey as well? Because these guys are ultimately going to be spreading that vibe, that message, that feeling, that empowerment, all of that. A lot of the staff don't feel it, then a lot of the guests won't also feel empowered to do so. So I think there's a lot of power within that one. The second one is make more sustainable choices the default. And what do I mean by that? I mean normalising certain new behaviours. A really cool opportunity here, and I think going back to the power of influencing, looking at new opportunities, looking at new behaviours. Plastic straws, nobody would even dare use a plastic straws these days, and I think people would probably get a second look when they do. So it's normalising different behaviours, and again with the amount of people staying within hotels, a very cool opportunity to do that. Thirdly, actively support the local community. We love a good vibe. It's the escapism. We love to be comfortable. We love to be safe. We love to be part of the community. Tell us, when a guest checks in, tell them about a particular family-owned restaurant that might be down the road, or tell them how to get around town or using an eco-friendly bike, or potentially you've got some friends who might own a tour business and you can set them up and get some sort of local engagement there. So it really makes the guest feel a lot more secure. They feel part of the community, they feel appreciated, and it's also great for your community as well. And the last point I will just make on this one here is demonstrate credibility by achieving a third-party certification. We've always maintained that these certifications really uphold the highest value when we're promoting sustainability practices on Booking.com. You know, it's really important that we do showcase this, and the way we showcase it is we work with 59 different certification bodies across the globe. Once a hotel has gone through the process and got their certification, we actually display it right on their listing before the guests make that booking, which I think is really cool. Because if you jump onto Booking.com either on desktop or on mobile, it's such a prime piece of real estate and it's right there. So it's there to get the guest's attention. If there is somebody particularly looking for a sustainable option, they can't miss it because we really make the best use of that space and it jumps out at them. Once they click into the listing, then they can see who they're being certified with as well. How do we help our partners through their sustainability journey? We have actually just upgraded our sustainability platform within the accommodation, their own extranet. So essentially they can go into it's within their own extranet. There's a section in there called sustainability. And this is where we ask a lot of our partners to answer a few different questions because a lot of them don't know where to start, right? So if we can sort of get them into that, we can educate them and they can start to think about what are the things I need to put in place to get certified. And once they've answered a short survey, then we go back and give them tailored advice about next steps, including certification bodies that we work with and also including potentially different ways that they can go about and get funding. All right, so I would really encourage you to download and check out the full report. I have only really scratched the surface on it today, but I would like to thank Accor because it was great for them to be able to show us the things that they were using, have an open mind, and I think together within the industry we can really do some great things and coincidentally with the University of Surrey as well. So it was a very, very cool piece of research and we were really proud to be a part of it. I will leave with this. We have got a really amazing opportunity to influence people's behaviour, not just within the hotel complex themselves, but also when they go home, they talk to their friends, they talk to their family. This is where we can see behavioural change. So that experience in Queenstown, it really changed my life. That's why I'm here today. I'm really excited to be here, to meet a lot of you. So please come and have a chat over the next day. And thank you so much for listening.
Beautiful. That was fascinating. A lot of, actually, I think it's the first study that I've seen when I read it, and I was a little bit confused. At first, I was telling the Booking.com colleagues at the headquarters, and I was looking at it, I was just skimming it very quickly. I was like, did you have some problem? The text looks like there's some colors on it, and it's like, look carefully. It actually shows that where people were actually looking and lingering and their emotions, like, oh, okay. So that was fascinating to look at that, and I think it's very helpful to use that and understand that it's just slightly changing the word can really make a change in how we influence the action and reaction. Because if it's a negative feeling, then I would not cooperate. Perhaps I would just have less sense of being pleased with the accommodation. So I'd like to start with kind of a little bit direct question. I would say, what would be the most important takeaway that you would say from the research?
Yeah, thanks. It is a good question. It's quite a wide question. Lots of key takeaways, but I think probably the biggest thing is it's so important to have transparent information. So really trying to avoid some of those vague big words like eco-friendly or green, being very, very specific about some of the things that the hotel accommodation is doing. So I think that would be the first part, and a lot of it is around the how, right? Like how are we conveying that message? It's not so much just about the words, although that was what we analysed. I think if we can really embed it within the culture of that particular hotel through the staff or through whatever means, be creative. That's a really good way to engage the traveller. I do have one very cool example here. I stayed at a hotel recently, and within their compendium, there was an opportunity to say, if you don't want housekeeping, just let us know down at reception and you can have your free coffee on the way out. I have 4 or 5 coffees a day. Like, I absolutely love my coffee, especially within the morning. But the message was hidden away. You know, so how do they convey that message? I think that was a really cool initiative to get the traveller to start thinking more sustainably. So yeah, that would probably be a better way to think about how to convey some of the cool things they're doing.
I think that Radisson actually put that into their system now, where you actually have that, you can see that ahead of time. So even when you just manage your reservation, you would see that, hey, remember you can choose the option for cleaning your room once rather than every day, and something like that. And then you get a voucher, a free coffee, and so on. But if we're talking about messages, so I was just checking earlier around lunchtime and mentioning Resort World Sentosa. And you know, we had a conference there last year, so when I was there a few years before to prepare for the conference, I stayed there and I loved one message that I saw in the room at the Aquarius Hotel, which was trying to convey eventually maybe I'll read what was written and let's see what's your feeling about that. Keep door closed, all caps. But then the message was, stay cool and keep bugs out. Insects live in Sentosa's natural environment. So at first I was like, oh no, another thing like save the world, save the planet, now I have to behave, someone's watching me because I'm one day staying at a nice hotel. But then I realized, it's the insect. So it made me close the door because I don't want to get bite or find another insect, but it also had another meaning there. Besides that it was kind of playful and nice, the way that it conveyed the messages, keep the door closed. And actually they did have a mechanism that recognized if the door is open for a long time, there would be some adaptation to that. There are some systems to that. But it also used the reference. We have some people from Sentosa here, I see. So also the reference to the natural environment that they try to keep on Sentosa. So that also gives you a sense of place as well. So that's to stay for the DMO that keep the environment, the area also in a natural environment. For the people here that come from the hospitality, that are hospitality providers, I see we have a mix, quite a few NGOs, a few from the hospitality, consultants. What would be the way for them to use this research? Something that they can take away and use right away?
Yeah, a good question. I think Accor actually could probably put it better than I can. And what they said is that sustainability should really be embedded into every aspect of the hospitality journey. And so really what that means is from the moment the guests arrive, right, or even before they book, they should know that the hotel has got those values and standards. It should be that they have got access to be able to book sustainable transportation. When they stay, they understand and they want to make a difference during their stay, and they also know how they can travel around the local community as sustainable as they possibly can. We know it's not perfect, they're not going to be able to have access, but just to consciously start thinking about how they can do things better, and I think that was worded really well. If I look at our overarching mission for Booking.com as another example, our mission is to make it easier for everyone to experience the world. Like, that is our corporate mission, that's what we do. There's so many things that come under that, but really sort of if I drill it down, how there is more of an expectation now, I guess, from guests to make sure that if they do want to experience the world and they do want to not only book flights but accommodation and travel and different segments of their journey, they can do so in a sustainable way. So how are we showcasing that? And it's something that's very important to us to make sure we get it right And we have got sustainable options right from the flights, how do we offset that? We're showcasing the sustainable certifications. We also give guests access to be able to book EV cars and make a difference right through to doing other trips with local vendors and also local transportation tickets as well. So, you know, all of the verticals, there are options when guests want to travel sustainably. So yeah, I think just thinking within the accommodation, what can they do the moment the guest arrives and how can they really start integrating and letting them understand a lot of the values.
Well, there's another thing that I think something that was mentioned in a few previous GSTC conferences. It's a line that wasn't mentioned exactly in these words, but sometimes I think you refer to it as mainstreaming offers. So I guess that you saw over here, if you go and you want to have your coffee, then now in August 2025, you don't need to check if you prefer to have a soy milk or oat milk or skim milk or another type of something that has the word milk in it. It's already there. You don't need to actually ask for that. 2 years ago, you probably needed to do that, but now you don't need to do it. And that's because many people ask and request that. But the thing is that, so that's the mainstreaming, because eventually you have so many people requesting the same thing, and then the providers provide it. But there's also a thing where you can make the choice for the guests, for the customers. So let's say preference, you gave the example of straws, plastic straw, that's a good example. I remember a few years ago we had an expert on accessibility and said, well, you know, we do have people that actually need straw. It's actually needed, it's more comfortable for them to drink. Not just because it's nice or just a habit, they need that. So straws are needed. You can have just choose a different choice, or perhaps you don't provide it at all, and if someone requested, you give them or some other choices. So sometimes when they ask us, if you look at providers from a destination level, from a hotel, from a tour operator perspective, we have the ability to make the choice for hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people, rather than requesting them to make the choice every time, again and again. Sorry, please, no straw. Sorry, no bag, no plastic bag, and I have my own. There's just no need for that. I'll just hold it in my hand. So instead, you cannot, that product can be offered, or the service, but you just don't necessarily offer that. So making that choice is something that easily can influence.
And it's like setting a new standard, right? Like this is a new normal, normalizing the fact that there are different options out there, but opposed to saying, do you want to choose a plastic one? Actually, these are the ones that we offer.
But we're talking about accommodations. I don't work for an accommodation or a hotel, neither do you. So why did Booking.com actually decide to initiate this research in the first place?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think if I go back over the last 10 years, like a lot of my job has been, having 5 or 6 meetings a day with our accommodation providers. And the job is overall is to help enhance their business. We talk all things through from growth figures, profit, like what are the things that are really sort of help ticking them, but we work with them to understand their business, and we really help them grow and optimize on our platform. But one of the huge things is sustainability. And over the last 10 years, I've been engrossed in so many amazing conversations I've had with our partners on this particular topic, and I've seen how far they have progressed. Over the last 10 years, they have done it so well. So my statement would be, keep doing the things you're doing, because guests are catching on, they're learning, they're wanting to be a part of it as well. And this research we conducted was for the benefit of our partners, so I really suggest that they do take a look at the full report, and just having some real thoughtful considerations around how they're doing things, because they're doing the right things, but how are we conveying that to the guests that stay?
So let's take a break a little bit from the questions that I prepared, and we'll move on to look at questions that are on Slido. I think there was an issue, so we won't be able to show it, but you can see the questions here. Okay, good. But I think that's the admin view. Anyway, let's take Jennifer's question. Messaging definitely is a huge part of influencing traveler behavior. But Jennifer is curious if customers also want more to see specific numbers, data, stats, and so on. Is that something that was mentioned in the research?
Not in this specific research, but a very good question. Yes, is the answer. We actually, every single year for the last 10 years, since 2016, so nearly 10 years, we go out there and we do conduct guest surveys around their attitudes towards sustainable travel. And we do this with most of our major regions. So as an example, we have one for New Zealand. We also have one for Australia. These are public, so I can access them and I can send them to anybody that is interested. But yeah, we do share them. We do have press releases and we do them every single year. And it's so important for us, right? Like to actually understand if guests want to travel sustainably. Like, what are the types of things that they're interested in? Are they worried about particular footprints in certain places, or are they interested in how they can hire different ways that they can travel around to be more sustainable? And when I first started going back to where we are right now, we can see the increase in guests wanting to be more sustainable every single year. So I think it's around about 70% have got a much more positive attitude towards sustainable travel now. But I can definitely give those figures to you after this.
Okay. Let's take another question here. After that, that's number one. I think we can cross out the questions that have been already answered. Danielle, what kind of auditing does Booking.com do of the certifications, offsetting programs that the suppliers have to get listed as sustainable options?
Yeah, so in terms of who we work with 59 different certification bodies globally. I am not the best person to answer how we go through the entire auditing process, so I won't be able to give you a straightforward answer, but I'm happy to get that answer for you after this. But we know that there are over 400 out there. So there are a lot of different certification companies globally, but we as a company, we do have a process we go through, and I won't be able to elaborate on the steps. I can find that for you, but we work with 59 accredited or certification bodies.
Well, maybe it's a chance to share a little bit about the GSTC Market Access Program that Booking.com is utilizing to a certain degree, but also beyond that, and we work also with some other OTAs as well. So what we do currently is that we have these two filters, and eventually similar to what GSTC does, we provide a framework and then for others to choose how to use that system and framework. So we collect on a quarterly basis from the accredited certification body a list of the certified hotels, and then we share it with our OTA partners. That also includes our friends at Booking.com, Traveloka that is also not in this room, but one of the other, Trip.com that is in one of the other rooms, Traveloka and many other OTAs. We also have a second filter at the moment that also includes those that are certified to GSTC recognized standards, yet they have not yet been accredited. But some of the OTAs, so for example, Trip.com is very strict. They only say, we only display those accommodations that are certified by GSTC accredited certification bodies of more nonetheless. Then we have others that would, let's say that Booking.com, that you have your own reasons and so on to include some other programs, other schemes, and I think it's also related to Booking.com being part of Travelist and collaborating on that. And so we see that we have different OTAs that actually use different ways on what they would display, but eventually think that all of the OTAs do is that they don't do the audit themselves. They actually rely on other schemes, other certification bodies on the GSTC, like the GSTC Market Access Program. Because from my knowledge over the years, speaking with many OTAs on these programs, is that it's just impossible. You don't have, that's why there are certification bodies, there are schemes, labels, and so on, and that's one of the big users. And for us, it's also a very big problem, the Market Access Program. So that's hopefully answers your question, Danielle. Kind of a general one. Don't mind that I took that chance. So let's go back to a question that we've got prepared here. Less connected to the, keep on the topic, so it's less connected to the research, but what impact do you see from displaying certifications to travelers? So the certification itself.
Yeah, so,
Label,
yeah,
plaque.
the certification label, and a couple of points here I mentioned earlier. Before guests even make the booking, right, they can see the certification badge, and that's really important. We also have a sustainability certified filter that guests can use, but also we're really integrating a lot of AI now as well. So we have got like an AI trip planner where guests can say, can you find me a sustainable option? I'm going to the Bahamas for 5 days and I would like to have a sustainable transportation while I'm there as well. So we'll be able to use a lot of these things. So point being is that it is very, very clear when guests are searching, and we're always trying to match the right consumer to the right property. We've started to do a little bit of A/B testing because it is a very, very good question. So the recent test that we conducted was over in France actually, and I think this is one of the first bits of A/B testing we have done on the certification landscape. But essentially how we conducted it is we do use affiliates. So our affiliate partners have the capability to pull our rates and inventory and sell through to a lot of different corporate travellers through their own platform. Now, we've always gated the sustainability certification from them. So guests or corporate travellers, I should say, go onto this platform and they are basically choosing hotels based on price point, star rating, different review scores, all of the normal things. What we did over a 6-month period for the first time is we actually gave them access to see which properties out of the group of properties that they were searching within were sustainability certified. And after 6 months, we saw an increase, a growth increase from 13% right up to 23.5% in terms of room nights booked, which is really impressive, right? Like essentially this is showing us that guests are proactively trying to book these properties that have got that certification label. We also did a second test just to validate some of those results, and over a 3-week period we also saw the growth from a different travel provider that was using our rates and inventory. We saw a growth there from 17 to 19.5% as well. So still early days, and I think we're still sort of playing within these waters. We love to do a lot of A/B testing at Booking.com. We base most of our decisions around data and experimentation, but yeah, I thought that was very exciting, so good to see.
I take a quick question from Natasha. Are you seeing a positive change in sharing communication and the general uptake of sustainability practices now in comparison to 5 years ago? I think that say easily yes.
100%, yeah.
No question there. And by the way, you share the QR code, so that's also available for everyone here.
It is, yes. So there is a QR code. If you go onto partner.booking.com, if you're an accommodation provider, you will be able to access it there. Alternatively, I can also share the link after this as well.
We'll be sharing the slides afterwards. And do you tend to use it in a further manner? I mean, how do you disseminate that besides interested parties like the people here? Does it actually influence accommodations that you work with? Besides a call that probably reads that through.
We hope so. So information to this is through the sustainability part within the extranet. And look, this is actually a report that we've only just released. So there has been a press release on it. Accor have obviously shared it. All of our accommodation partners have got access. So And the way that we're set up, our account managers typically go to their own markets and they meet face to face with their accommodation partners. Sustainability is a hot topic. We always love to talk about it because it is very important for us. And so this is something that they will also be talking to their partners about as well.
And do you have some other researchers up your sleeve that are about to be displayed? But actually, I do not answer for the audience to know.
Yes, we do. We have got another piece of research which we conducted around sustainability recently. We released it essentially yesterday was the first time that we've presented this research. So if you were in my session yesterday, you'll know what I'm talking about. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to look at the landscape of certifications globally and really try to uncover some of the barriers that they face in order to scale. Our job is to really encourage our accommodation partners to embrace sustainable behaviours, which they do so already. Like, that's not our job, they're doing this. But then we're obviously encouraging our partners to know how to get third parties certified. And if we're successful in really helping them on this journey, then hopefully we should see a good increase on certifications. But we need to know, have we got the resources available in order to scale? So if you're interested in that particular research, please come and have a chat to me after this, and I'm happy to share more with you.
Anyone has a wish for the next research beyond the one? I mean, let's say it's Booking.com Santa Claus. Can you do
What would I like for Christmas?
Yes.
What's on your Christmas list?
Well, it's something that we've heard a lot, but yes, seriously, if you have some, I want to know. So if you have some, what would be your wish study, survey, research that you would like to learn that? And you want to know that, and perhaps you can share with us some partners that have budget to do that. But there is a question that many times we hear is, okay, the certification actually means bringing more booking to my hotel.
Yeah. The recent research that we conducted was nearly a 10% uplift in guest booking those particular properties. So that was a really positive change for us. Again, it is still early phase, and I would imagine we're going to continue doing a lot more testing, but we did revalidate it with another set of partners who did the same thing. We gave them access through the corporate traveller site to see that certification badge, and they also saw an uplift in sales from 17 to 19.5. So a really cool start, and I think there's still a lot more we can do in that space.
I think that's actually quite an early research a long time ago that TUI was doing about the hotels compared to those that are certified and those that are not. But that was really quite very simple to measure eventually, what you would expect. They operate in a more sustainable manner, so they pollute less, they use less energy, they eventually they might have had some expenses to invest to make the changes, but in the long term, it's actually the cost goes down. But I think it was Dr. Xavier Font that led the research, I remember, also some time ago, that shows that the satisfaction eventually goes up. So even if you might not see, okay, clearly I got certified, therefore a year later I got skyrocketed in the number of bookings, it might not be like that. And what you would see is that if you survey the guests afterwards, you see that they are more happy and they might book again and so on. So that was very clear in that research. I'm sorry I forgot that.
No, that's a great, I really think that's a really valid point actually. We haven't quite measured it in that way yet. But we often see when there are positive changes within a particular hotel or operation, like this will actually reflect within the guest review score as well. So we will see the guest review score going up after guests have stayed, and this is why we encourage all of our partners to say, please ask them to leave a review when they check out, because it all matters and it all helps, and that's a really good way to sort of understand how they sort of feel about their stay, and we can measure it that way.
So I will ask this question, although it's not my I choose it only because many people have voted it, so that's the anonymous person has a lot of questions. Noticed lead and GSTC both listed the hotel sustainability label on booking. How do you differentiate labels in educating travelers on the meeting? Just for everyone to understand, the reference to lead and GSTC, so GSTC and GSTC frameworks, of course, other standards that are GSTC recognized and so on. We have two here, I see in the audience as well. They're holistic. They look at everything related to the sustainability within the accommodation. While lead is, I agree on a personal level, I appreciate it a lot, but it refers to the physical structure of the hotel in this case. So technically, they don't need to have if the building is certified, LEED certified, it follows all everything that is listed in the standard in its building, operation, and so on. There's nothing to do with culture, there's nothing to do beyond the building itself. It's a challenge there that I actually also have raised a number of times. So I did not ask this question, but someone asked.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you the answer you want. I have to be quite transparent. It's probably a little bit more outside of my scope. I'm not overly involved in the overall sustainability strategy. I'm more on the ground working with our accommodation partners. But I can ask that question through to our sustainability lead. If you'd like to come up and have a chat with me afterwards, I'm happy to get that response for you.
Okay, and let's do another question from JL. Do you find that customers do filter for or look at the sustainable hotels? If so, do those products have different metrics like better conversion rates?
It's not something we have measured yet. So we've only really just started testing. We don't have a huge amount of third-party certified properties on Booking.com yet. So we're currently at 25,000 globally. And this is something that we are really trying to encourage our accommodation partners to scale and grow, because we know that having these certification certificates is super important. So we're trying to put our efforts into behind a lot of our accommodations to ask them, what are they doing, facilitate some education around them. There's so much education that we do give them and a lot of tailored advice. Even it doesn't really matter where they are on their sustainability journey, if they're just getting started, if they're halfway through, if they've already been certified but they're looking to go somewhere else. Like, there is a lot of information that we're giving them, but that's really where our focus is at this stage. When we start to collate and get a lot more data, then we can potentially have a look at these things.
So just linger a little bit on the number-wise. You said we don't have a lot, we only have 20,000 something.
It is still a lot.
But you might think it's a lot, but how many accommodations are on Booking.com? How many millions?
A lot. Millions.
So 25,000 out of that is nothing. And that's something that, the GSTC market access program has been out there for a while, and the numbers, of course, there are some increases, but also the number of accommodation increases. So no matter what, the percentage of those sustainable hotels still remains very small. Obviously, that's just reality. So we at GSTC, many times we have partners that say, we want to display all of them. And we first tell them, first, here's reality. This is how it is. So we'd love you to be able to show your corporate buyers that when they go to Oakland or Singapore, you'll have 1,000 options to choose from. But reality is that there are only 2 or 3 or 4, but actually Singapore has more, but it's comparably small. So it's still challenging, and I think for many organizations that try to push that onward through that chain, it's still a challenge. So that's why they add some issues like metrics, calculation, estimated calculation of carbon footprint associated with these accumulations. But of course, that's something that we at GSTC deal with. And to follow a small follow-up on Natasha's question, if we see an advancement compared to 5 years ago, the answer is yes. And we have programs, very strong programs like in Turkey that we haven't spoken about it here, but we have spoken about it in the past few conferences. You probably have heard that in Turkey, by 2030, all accommodations, which is about 20,000 of them, will need to be certified by accredited certification bodies by 2030. And already there are about, how many now? Mustafa, you remember that, I think. How many on the third level now? 2,000, so about 10% already on the third level, which means reaching that target. And we have Singapore, and we have Italy that is without any mandate from the government. There is a high focus there. We've got chains that are doing to push forward to get the whole chain certified with targets. So we've got, for example, Santara, a Thai-owned brand that said a few years ago, they said by 2020, the end of 2025, all of our accommodations will be certified. And they've been working slowly, but they will get there. And then there are the big ones like Accor and so on. So we will see that, and I think that the number and the percentage, if we would have this conversation 2-3 years from now, will be very different. But while we say that there's still growth of accommodations, right? If you just drove here, you would have seen that there are 3 more hotels being built here. All right, let's see if there's another good question here. Sagufta Janif asks, do you see adaptability with smaller operators? How do we make it accessible and easier for them? Would you like to answer?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I actually spoke a little bit around this on the topic yesterday when we were talking about scaling certifications and understanding a lot of the barriers between privatization. You know, we've obviously got a lot of the big owners, and they can afford to go and get certifications done through mass. They've got bigger budgets. It's probably an easier stakeholder, but with a lot of the smaller ones, it's really difficult to sometimes find who the right person is, how are they going to get the funding, is it a priority, because they have to really look at their overall strategy and their focus. You know, is it because have they got the funds to put into this because they're wanting to drive them and really think about the long term, or is it, you know, something that they're not going to be able to really prioritize at the current time? So when they go into, for us, when our account managers are speaking with them and they've got access to all of these educational resources that we offer them, that's why we do the survey. Because it's not a one-stop shop and it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. We ask them so many different questions to really understand their business and make sure that the advice that we give them is more tailored to who they are. And that also includes, you know, we can actually give them access to potential ways that they could be eligible for certain funding and whatnot as well. So it is a community, it is, there's a lot of information out there, and I know that within certain markets, they all talk to each other, they all help each other through a lot of these challenges. But yeah, in terms of priorities, sometimes for smaller operators, it might not necessarily be the biggest priority to get certified.
I'd like to also comment on that and say, we had earlier this year in Japan, we have a lot of members in Japan, very active. There was one here, but I see the name from still have some from Japan. So thank you for hosting us for the for January's meeting for the Japan members, and for Rakuten, thank you again. And one of the things that I displayed there, because I was warned that there will be people asking, because there are representatives that represent associations of small operators, small accommodations, Inshuku and so forth, and not only the large one like Rakuten and JTB that are also here with us today. And what I did is we prepared to show something from Hostel World. Hostel World is a GSTC member, one of the users of the GSTC Market Access Program. And well, I think if you're not familiar with them, then obviously the name says it all. Hostel World, it's an OTA focused only on hostels. So the numbers, they don't have millions like you. They have, I think, 15,000 people. Well, the numbers are much less, but still, they're able to bring on board a lot of the hostels. And so the question about the size is sometimes it's possible. It's possible. It's a question of knowledge and, of course, investments on the long term, and also a question about where you are physically in the world, right? So perhaps there would be a hostel in Paris would have different requirements to be considered sustainable as compared to being in the Yasawa Islands here in Fiji. So they would have probably different accessibility to infrastructure and so on. The second thing is that many times it comes to education, and we have a lot of partners. I mean, also Booking.com, you have content on your website that you offer, I mean, the partner website that you offer your accommodations that are being displayed. We have other partners that offer training. Some of them are for free, some of them they sponsor for sometimes it's smaller things. Like Randy mentioned that platform that we launched earlier this year, about 2 months ago with Accor, that is now available to all. It's actually complements the GSTC training. So if one of you have taken a GSTC course and then you're trying to learn from those models, you wouldn't feel it's repeating. The models on that platform are aimed at very specific core things that any accommodations deal with, small and large. And it's been translated to many languages, mostly focusing on Southeast Asian languages to allow those that otherwise would not be taking a full course. And there are other ways to provide this knowledge and education. I mean, we have here it's Mr. Yumi, right? So later on, I think tomorrow I'm speaking. So tomorrow I will share a little bit about the Korea Tourism Association, on how they deal with disseminating knowledge related to sustainability. So knowledge, we have always found that it's crucial. So one, knowledge, and two, it's possible. The example of hostel will go slowly down more and more. With I think a large group based in Israel called Accor hostels that have gained all of their properties to be certified. I think with that, let's wrap up. I feel like it's a good time to wrap up. So I'll just do one question to you that you're not prepared for. We meet here again a year from now. Weather permits and bosses permits. What do you think would be the biggest change that you would share compared to today? From your notes, from your comments, from your feelings, from data that we would have had a year from now?
I think a year from now we will have stronger collaboration between all parties involved, because it's not a one part of the industry that's really going to make an impact. Guests need to make an impact, our accommodations need to make an impact, OTAs need to make an impact. We've all got a huge amount and a really big role to play into becoming successful. If I was to put a metric on it, I would really love to see a lot more certified properties showing through Booking.com, more data to really show this is exactly what guests are looking for, better education for them because they are the ones who are wanting to go and book sustainably certified properties. So yeah, a really good increase, better knowledge, tighter collaboration, and a better world.
Thank you, Emma, and for everyone here, Pinaka level, and see you at 4 for the next session. So at 4, you can choose one of the sessions. There will be a nice one here, which I will moderate as well. There's the 2 marine activities, snorkeling, diving, and such. Or, of course, the competing panels, which are also excellent. We've got workshops, we've got sessions about destination issues. So, Pinaka level, and see you around.